Aloha and welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about endpoint protection. We're going to be talking about EDR and anti-malware. Well, what is an endpoint? Let's start with a definition of what an endpoint is. Well, whenever you have a network and you have wired or wireless connections, what you find at the end of each of these connections is an endpoint. So these can be laptops, desktops, smartphones, printers, file servers, could be sensors. It could be Raspberry Pis. If you have a Raspberry Pi around, it could be a device like this, a hacking device. It could be your smartwatches. Anything that is at the end of a network connection is an endpoint. So to manage these endpoints, we use something called a Unified Endpoint Management System, and that's a UEM. So that's a collection of software tools for controlling and securing your endpoints from a single management console. So UEM, it enables the management of endpoints regardless of the operating system or device type. Doesn't matter what you have. So the UEM has the capability to install firmware and software updates. It can apply security policies, and it can remotely remove all applications and data from lost or compromised endpoints. So this is what you need to know about the UEMs. Um, moving on into endpoint protection. Endpoint protection, also known as the endpoint security, it's a set of technologies that's used to protect an endpoint agent against endpoint against various attack types. So the endpoint protection technologies that you'll find, they're going to include antivirus and anti-malware software. You can have endpoint detection and response, which is called EDR. You've got data loss prevention, DLP. You've got next generation firewalls. You've got host-based firewalls, host-based intrusion detection and prevention systems like HIDS or HIPS. The one thing in there that I didn't talk about or we haven't covered yet in this chapter or any other previous is data loss prevention. And that's going to be, we'll probably go into this in the future, but DLP is essentially making sure that data isn't exfiltrated from your system. So it's checks on, the data that's going out to make sure that, protected information isn't being leaked out or, exfiltrated. When we talk about endpoint detection response, we're also talking about endpoint threat detection and response, ETDR. And this is an endpoint security solution that combines your endpoint monitoring and log analysis capabilities with contextual information from correlated network events to detect and respond to security events. So you're taking all that information, using that together to detect if you've got some kind of an ongoing situation, and you're able to respond to that. So amongst your endpoints, you're going to have a lot of different types. You'll have your IoT devices, you can have mobile devices, traditional computer systems. Each one of these, has its own distinct vulnerabilities and threats. So you have to be careful of that. An example of it is like an IoT device. IoT device like smart meters, they have a limited amount of computational power, obviously. And, without standardized security protocols, it means that you're going to have to keep an eye on your firmware updates and do more frequent vulnerability scans. And in the book, they list a lot of endpoint protection types that are out there and mentions the security measures that are necessary for it, like the IoT devices. May need customized firmware updates. Mobile devices need data encryption, authentication protocols. Servers need access control and regular security updates. And your workstations, you're going to be concerned with endpoint security solutions and regular patch management. So go through this in the book and make sure you know what to expect for each type of endpoint. And then we get into something we've covered before, malware. So we've discussed what malware is. Malware is essentially malicious software, and it can do all kinds of damage to your system. There's different forms of malware that are out there. You've got viruses, worms, ransomware, spyware, adware, Trojan horses. There's lots of these different variations out there. So endpoints out there, they can be protected against malware by anti-malware software. And anti-malware software, a lot of you have probably used something like Malwarebytes in the past. There's, I think, one called Avast. There's several different products out there. Some of them free, some have freemium versions. Some of them are strictly pay for. So there's a variety of these, these anti-malware software programs out there, And we also have antivirus software out there that protects against computer viruses. We've talked about computer viruses in the past. We've talked about the different types that are out there. We've talked about worms. We've talked about viruses that simply attach to software and replicate themselves, and they can replicate themselves across systems as well. Worms are usually independent. Software is a strong word for it, but independent, code that runs and it replicates itself across a network. So keep that in mind. The last thing that they discuss in this chapter is next generation firewalls. Next generation firewalls do a lot of what you see in traditional firewalls like packet filtering, but they have a lot of other technologies that are incorporated that will help detect and block network attacks. So inside here, you're going to have your traditional packet filtering, but you're also going to have the ability to enforce security policies at the application, the port, and the protocol levels. And you can encrypt, inspect encrypted traffic. You can detect and remove malware. You do DPI, which is deep packet inspection. So you're able to do a lot more than just what a standard firewall would be able to do. So so this is what you need to know about the next generation firewalls, also known as NGFWs. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out and ask. I'll be happy to help you. Just to review what we've talked about here, talk about endpoints being the what you find at the end of your connections, whether it's wired or wireless. You have a UEM that provides unified endpoint management. We've talked about endpoint protection, endpoint security. We've talked about endpoint detection and response, EDR, which is also known as endpoint threat detection and response, ETDR. We talked about endpoint protection for different types of endpoints. And we talked about malware protection. We've talked about what malware is, what viruses are. And we've talked about antivirus software and anti-malware software. And we finished up with a quick discussion of next generation firewalls. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Aloha.